do hope that what you'll see over the next 45 minutes or so that you will find beneficial and learn something about the electric school bus and Bluebird's leadership in the market. Next slide. I'm Robert Holt. I'm the director of Bluebird bus sales here at Rush Bus Centers. I'll be speaking to you about the support, the increasing support we're doing here at Rush Bus Centers to take care of our customers here in Texas. LACY Buckingham is our grant manager at Rush Bus. Albert Burley is the regional executive director for Bluebird. And we have a special guest today, Mr. Jason Gillis. He is the transportation director at Everman ISD and the first Texas EV bus customer. So look forward to you guys being able to hear that. Next slide. So I'll be talking to you today about the Rush Care School Bus Support Center. LACY Buckingham Robertson will talk about the current and future funding opportunities. Then Albert Burley will talk about the growth in the electric vehicle market, Bluebird's position as the leader in electric buses and the first to market for electric, the options that are available for the vehicle, and then the maintenance schedule, the warranty coverage, and of course the training that's provided for the electric vehicle itself. And then it'll be turned over to Mr. Gillis, and he's going to talk to you about real world experiences, which I think you'll find very informative. And then we'll open it up at the end for some Q&A. So that we'll just get started. Next slide. So I'd like to talk to you about the Rush Care School Bus Support Center that we just launched in November of 2020, and I'm really excited about the support center. We've basically got a dedicated support line for our Texas school bus customers. It resides inside of our main Rush Care call center, and it's manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week overall, the call center. Inside the bus support center, we've got a dedicated person that we hired to just take your calls from a service perspective. So if during normal business hours during the week, you have a question or you need to schedule a repair in one of our dealerships, Jared Rasmussen will take that call and he can help you with that, and he can help you throughout that process and keep you informed along the way. And then the really cool thing about this is that if you're on an activity trip, the football game on a Friday night or baseball tournament, tennis over the weekend, and something happens and you need service, you can use the same 844 number above, and that will roll over to our main Rush Care call center that is manned 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they can assist you with any needs that you have, if it's from a service standpoint, to get you in somewhere, to get you back up on the road and get the kids delivered back home or make the game. So if you have parts needs, we have 11 call agents on staff to take your call. All of them have been trained in the Bluebird parts and all makes parts, so you can order directly with them. They'll schedule a will call pickup for you or a delivery to your district, just however you want to do it. If you do call after hours, that line is manned from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if you need help after hours or you don't get someone live, we will return the call the next day. So someone will call you back from a parts perspective. Just want to reiterate though, from a service perspective, you'll always get someone live with that support number. This is just going to increase our capabilities in Texas to support you guys in the field. Next slide. So all of the support line resides in our call center. Like I said, from our corporate perspective, what we've done is we've hired a dedicated school bus liaison. Many of you might recognize the name of Craig Harenka. He spent several years in sales, and he has transitioned over to this new position, basically to be the liaison between our dealerships, you as the customer, and Bluebird, and his role is going to be to work between all of those groups to help identify issues, resolve issues as soon as possible to get the buses back up and running. Craig's got a unique background, and he spent over 20 years as a technician. So not only can he sell the buses, he can work on them. So many times he might be able to just help you out if he's there, with the need there. But I'm excited about that role and Craig's experience and ability. So looking forward to, Craig came on board in December. And so we're just getting that out to the field, and you'll see Craig showing up. He's going to be traveling around the state, visiting customers, and that's what we want. In addition to that, our service operations team is now directing our dealerships from a technician staffing standpoint and a training training standpoint. We want to make sure that we're getting our techs trained when you bring it into one of our dealerships, that we have the ability to work on it. Those capabilities, it's an ongoing and ramping up. It's ramping up as we speak. So more and more of our technicians will be trained to work on Bluebird buses. Our parts operations team here at corporate's doing similar role, and that they're directing our dealerships to make sure we have the parts in stock that you need when you need it. And we're looking at expanding those parts inventories out to the other dealerships here in Texas. So overall, we're increasing that support capability to you guys, and that's our commitment to our customers here in Texas, that Rush is in the bus business, and we are committed to the bus business, and we're investing in and making sure that we can support you. So with that, I'll turn it over to LACY, and she'll talk about some funding.
Thanks, Robert. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. My name is LACY Robertson, and I am the grant manager here at Rush. Next slide, please. So to give you guys a little background, what we offer here at Rush in terms of grant services is we provide a suite of solutions to help our customers take advantage of grant funding across the country. As school districts, you're much more localized in terms of your geographic reach. And so we do offer this across the country, but we also offer it specifically targeted in your areas. And what we mean by a suite of solutions is we help you throughout the whole entire grant process. So that means identifying the funding opportunities, informing you guys of the opportunities, doing a grant feasibility assessment, whether a specific grant will work for your operation. And then we also will help you through the application process. So that means collecting the required paperwork, filling out the forms, doing application checks to make sure that they're completed as required by the program. And then we also will help you with the implementation side if you need help with the grant invoicing once you've actually deployed the vehicles, or any compliance paperwork. So all of this is offered at no cost to our customers. We do have a grant assistance agreement that says if you end up buying the buses that are awarded under a grant from a different dealer, then we would charge you a small fee. And if nothing was awarded, there would be no fee. So it's really a value-added service that we offer to our customers. Next slide. So the first thing I wanted to go over is the Terp program, which is a program run by the TCEQ, and it's actually really an umbrella program, and it's a kind of, the best way to think of it is a major funding source that the TCEQ manages. And people often refer to Terp, but Terp actually has many different specific programs under it that target different mobile sectors. Terp in general, all of the programs provide funding to reduce NOx from mobile sources. And most of the time that involves scrapping the old truck. If it doesn't involve scrapping the old truck, it would at least involve if it's a repowering an engine. And buying newer, cleaner equipment with the goal of reducing NOx emissions in the state. Next slide. So of all the Terp has about 12 different programs, and the programs that are most relevant to school buses include the Texas Clean School Bus Program, the E-Rig incentives, and the Texas Natural Gas Vehicle Grant Program. Of those programs, and the Clean Fleet Program. And of those programs, the Texas Natural Gas Vehicle Grant Program is currently available today. So that program provides funding for you to replace your older diesel or gasoline buses with new CNG or propane buses. The grant is due on February 26th, so if anyone is interested in that funding, I highly recommend that we talk very soon. Give me a call or send me an email after today's presentation, because we'll need to start working on that application as quickly as possible, because there is a significant amount of documentation that is required for that application. So that's available today. And looking forward, there are some other grants that are going to be coming later this year and in the next year, such as the E-Rig rebate program that should be late in 2021. And then the Clean Fleet program and also the Clean Fleet School Bus program. So having an idea of all the different funding programs that are available helps you plan of when you're going to do procurements and then actually apply for funds. Next slide. The other major source of funding in Texas is the Texas VW program. So for those of you who may not be super familiar, Volkswagen was forced to create a $2.8 billion, $2.9 billion settlement based with Carbon EPA based on their emissions cheating scandal. So each state in the US was allocated a portion of that $2.9 billion based on the number of non-compliant vehicles that were registered in that state. So Texas was awarded $120 million, and then the TCEQ is administering that funding and also allocating it out similarly to the way that Terp is run by parsing it out into specific programs targeting specific sectors. So next slide, please. So this slide gives you an overview of all the different programs, the way that they've doled out the funding under the Texas VW program. And I think I misspoke on my previous slide and said Texas was given 120. It actually is 201, so I apologize for that blunder. But as you can see, the largest pot of funding was dedicated to school transit and shuttle buses. That was $58.7 million. That program was open last year and it was oversubscribed, which means they had more people, they had more funding requests than funding available. So that's currently closed, and the other different programs that are listed, you can see most of the vehicle programs are closed right now. The only one that's currently open is for light duty charging equipment. And then there are some other programs that are going to be opening later this year. But there is some hope that there will be additional funding for the school bus program. And so next slide. So this is an opportunity for all of you to get engaged and actually help encourage the state to allocate more funding to that school bus program. It was incredibly successful and there was such high demand. Not all the other programs that have been open, whether it be for the trucks or the refuse trucks, have been oversubscribed like the school bus program was. So there is a lobbying letter that is online that every one of you can sign up for. And basically, that it's requesting an additional $22 million in funding be allocated to the VW school bus program. There's an easy link where you can sign online to the form, and you can see which other school districts that have supported the program. I strongly encourage you to go ahead and sign that letter because it's an incredible program. It gives you a lot of flexibility. It allows you to buy new diesel buses or new propane buses or new electric buses. So it gives much more flexibility than some of the other programs that are out there that are prescriptive to a single fuel type. Next slide. And links to that letter will be sent out after the presentation later today. So one of the things that I often am asked is, what can I do to get ready for a grant opportunity? Because a lot of these grants are first come, first served. And that means that grants are awarded based on the order that they're received. So the best thing you can do is identify the vehicles that you want to include in your application and collect all the required documents so that when a program opens, you are ready to go and you can submit right away. So this is just a good handy checklist to keep on your desk. And so the first thing is to do is identify all the buses in your fleet that are model year 2010 or older, that have 2009 or older engines. Once you have that list of buses, go through and collect all these documents, including the titles, the registrations, the photos. Make sure you're tracking annual miles traveled, and make sure your odometers are working, and basically all of that documentation. If it's a leased vehicle, make sure that you have a copy of the full lease agreement. Next slide. So, and in terms of the new vehicle, what you'll need for the application is you'll need to make sure you understand the percentage of annual usage in specific counties in Texas. So make sure you have that defined, understand your routes, be able to write a quick blurb for each bus, and then also work with your Rush sales rep to get a quote for the new bus that you would like to purchase. Pretty much all the programs require like for like, so that means that the new bus has to be similarly spec'd and in the same weight class and type of bus as the old bus. So you want to make sure you start working on those bus specifications and get that quote as soon as possible. So you've worked through all that and you're ready to go right away. Next slide. Oh, and the last piece on the new vehicle information is, if you are applying for an electric school bus or a propane school bus or any alternative fuel, make sure you know where you're going to fuel that bus. So if you are in the process of building on-site infrastructure, you'll want to note that. If you're going to use public access infrastructure, you'll want to note that. And that is my presentation for today. So I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Albert, and I thank you for your time.
Great, thank you, Lacey. Appreciate it. That was great information. And good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us to learn more about Bluebird's electric school buses. I'm Albert Burley, Executive Director of Sales for our EV products. Joining me from Bluebird today is Hinton Harrison, who is a Senior Technical Specialist. Hinton will be available during the Q&A session to assist in answering any questions you may have. So in this presentation, you'll learn about Bluebird's position in the alternative power school bus market, our history and current state of electric school bus sales, what's fueling the growth in these products, and you will learn more about why Bluebird is the market leader in electric school buses. Next slide. So Bluebird is considered the expert in alternative power school bus products. And why are we? That's because we've sold over 20,000 alternative power school buses to over 900 school districts. And we offer those products in every alternative power type available, including propane, gasoline, CNG, and electric. And actually about 50% of everything we produce in our plant in Fort Valley, Georgia, is something other than a diesel powered bus. So we build quite a few of them. Next slide. Let's talk a little bit more about how we got our start in electrification of school buses. Our story goes back to 1994, when we were the first OEM to bring an electric school bus to market. So yeah, about 25 years ago, we actually introduced our very first electric school bus. Those went into service in some school districts, as well as we had some used as shuttle buses during the 1996 Atlanta Summer Olympics. So we had a limited run of this product, only about 3 years. And as you can imagine, the EV technology wasn't what it is today, and this product did have some limitations on performance and range. However, we did learn a lot about electrification, which helped us as we developed our second generation of our electric school bus. Next slide. So let's take a look at where we are today in the electric school bus market. So in 2016, we received a $4.9 million grant, a $4.9 million grant from the U.S. Department of Energy for development and commercialization of a high-powered V2G school bus. In 2017, we introduced that product at the STN Expo in Reno, Nevada. And in late 2018, we delivered our very first electric-powered school buses to customers in California. And then jumping ahead to 2021, Today, we are the only manufacturer to have produced and deployed electric school buses in all bus types, Type A, Type C, and Type D. And for the purpose of our presentation today, we're going to concentrate on the Type C and Type D product, but we have sold quite a few Type A electric buses as well. We're the only manufacturer to offer a standard CCS1 connector to allow for either AC level 2 or DC fast charging. And we'll talk a little bit more a little later on why that's important. And V2G capability is now standard in all our EV buses. We'll talk a little bit about vehicle to grid or V2G here in a moment as well. But to date, we have sold over 400 electric school buses since we introduced it in 2018, and we sold them in 15 different states. So 400 electric school buses is the most of any manufacturer to date in the school bus market. So we're pretty proud to be the industry leader with this product. Next slide. So where are we seeing all this growth? Well, you can see from the blue states on this map, we've sold electric buses in 15 different states, from very warm climates like Texas and Arizona to very cold climates like New York, Minnesota, and North Dakota. And our buses are operating in very wide range of climates and terrains. And to the right, this chart depicts the rapid growth in EV sales since we introduced it. So in 2018, we delivered our first ones late in the year. We delivered 8 buses. In 2019, we delivered 58 buses. In 2020, it was nearly 200 buses. And in 2021, just through like February 3rd today, we've already sold more than 100 buses this year. And we expect that number to at least double or potentially triple by the end of 2021. So seeing really good growth, pretty exciting for us. Next slide. All right, so let's discuss more about our current product. With respect to vehicle range, both our Type C and Type D buses achieve up to 120-mile range with our standard 155 kilowatt-hour battery pack. We offer different body sizes and capacities, with the maximum capacity up to 72 passengers in a Type C and 84 passengers in our Type D All-American. Also important to note that battery range can be impacted by a lot of factors, including the terrain, the driver habits, and the use of heaters and air conditioning. Next slide. So one of the nice benefits of our EV products is that it's available with most of the same options available on our other fuel type products. Some of the popular ones are front and rear air ride suspension, roof or skirt mounted air conditioning, wheelchair lifts, both luggage and tool compartments, and cabin heaters, including front and rear underseat heaters and stepwell heaters. And effective with electric buses produced April 1st or after, we are adding new standard and optional features to our EV bus lineup. Some of those major ones include electronic stability control will now be standard a little later this year. New thermal management system, we've upgraded that to now include a third electric heater. What that will do is allow us to have one heater that's dedicated to maintaining the battery heat, and 2 of the heaters will be for the cabin heat. And this also allows us to preheat the cabin while the bus is charging, which is really nice on some of the cold winter days. And another option will be battery insulation. Now, this is primarily for really cold weather climates, but it is a nice option. It provides insulation on all sides of the battery packs as well as the coolant manifolds. And this helps to maintain the optimal battery temperature and improve the efficiency of the bus. Another option would be a fuel-fired heater, which will be available on a Type C product. And this is auxiliary heating for cold weather climates, primarily to improve cabin heat, and also can be programmed for preheating the cabin while the bus is charging as well. Next slide. So this diagram shows the major system components and the layout of the location on a rear engine EV chassis. The conventional bus, our Type C, shares these same components, but they're positioned and packaged slightly different on that product. Now, what you'll note is missing from this diagram is a transmission. That's because our electric motor is direct coupled to the drive axle with a small drive shaft. And because we don't use a transmission, it saves on maintenance, weight, and cost. Now, we aren't going to go through all these various components. They're all the major components of the EV system, but we will, after this presentation, provide a link to a walk-around presentation performed by Hinton Harrison on an EV chassis. And that will show you where all the components are located and what the functions of them are. Next slide. So why all the growth in electric school buses? Really for several reasons. First and foremost, it's zero emission. Cleaner air for our children is the primary reason driving all the growth in these products. Reduced maintenance costs, we'll talk about that a little later, but you can expect about an 80% savings on electric maintenance products instead of as compared to diesel buses. A quiet operation, like all other electric products, they are very quiet. So much so we offer a standard noise generator to alert pedestrians at speeds of below 20 miles per hour. Grant funds, like Lacey spoke of earlier, there's been a lot of grant funds available to date on electric school buses, and that really helps offset the higher upfront costs to make that total cost of ownership equation a lot more appealing for the electric school bus. Performance is another one. You'll hear when Jason speaks to you guys at the end of this presentation about his experience with his electric buses. Performance is a big one. These buses do perform very well as compared to a diesel product. And also vehicle to grid technology, or V2G. I'll explain in the next slide why this is a nice benefit for school buses. Next slide. So vehicle to grid certainly has had an impact on what we believe is going to be the future growth of electric school buses. And so what is it? Really, V2G creates the opportunity for utilities to buy back stored energy that is on these buses. Obviously, they have very large battery packs that can store a lot of energy, and it gives them the opportunity to buy that energy back when it's not being used. It also creates the ability to redirect that excess power to other structures like buildings or fuel islands, so you could potentially even power a school building on site with the power from your buses. This is also very valuable for peak season consumption times, as well as natural disasters when energy needs increase. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit more about charging. Our bus, as I mentioned, comes standard with a CCS1 or a combined charging system level 1 charge port. This allows customers to utilize either level 2 AC charging or level 3 DC fast charging. What's nice is you don't have to make that decision when you purchase our bus. Do I want to go level 2 or level 3? The bus can do either. And you might decide to mix and match in your fleet because maybe you have some buses you want to put on longer routes. They're not going to have a lot of time midday to do an opportunity charge. So a DC fast charge will allow you to recharge those batteries midday much quicker than you can with a level 2 charger. But you may decide that because of the costs involved with level 3 chargers, you want to have a mix of level 2 chargers. That way, our buses will do either. It's a nice feature to have. But with level 2 charging, our buses have a 19.2 kilowatt per hour charge rate, and that will charge from 0 to 100 in about 8 to 8.5 hours. With DC fast charging, our buses have a 60 kilowatt per hour charge rate, and that will fully charge in about 3 to 3.5 hours. And also if you're considering vehicle to grid, which we mentioned earlier, DC fast charging is required. So just want to make sure you're aware of that. And as I mentioned, the major difference besides the charging speeds is the cost. Typically, a level 2 charger you can get as little as $2,000 if you're just going to get a charger that you might install on the side of a building. Or if you're going to go to DC fast charging, those costs can be as high as $60,000 for one standalone charger, and that's not including installation. Next slide. So chargers, they're also called EVSCs, or electric vehicle supply equipment, and they're available from several manufacturers. And we actually tested several of them and provide a list to our customers of which ones you could purchase and use with your buses. This doesn't include every possible charger available out there because it takes some time to vet each of these and do the testing. But we provide you a list and with the contact information so you can get quotes and find out what maybe the best charger is for your situation. Next slide. And as I mentioned earlier, if vehicle to grid is being considered, then DC fast charging equipment is required. And when we developed our V2G solution, we partnered with a company called Nuvi to develop a proprietary protocol to enable V2G capability on our bus. The charger pictured here is a Nuvi EVSC HD60. It's designed for V2G applications and is a charger that you would use if you decide to use V2G in your fleet. Next slide. So just a quick snapshot of the warranty. We get questions a lot on what the warranty is for these EV components. Our powertrain warranty is 5 years or 100,000 miles, and that includes everything but the main battery. It includes the propulsion motor, the inverter, high voltage junction box, the electric vehicle accessories, the system controller, and the battery management controller. And the battery has a separate warranty, and that's 8 years or 100,000 or 125,000 miles or 160,000 kilowatt hours of gross discharge throughput. So that's important to note. That's our standard warranty. And generally for folks with a school bus application, that 160,000 of kilowatt hour gross discharge is more than adequate for what you need to get through 8 years and probably much longer, as well as the miles. That we believe this is more than sufficient for what a school district application would be with an electric bus. Next slide. So we spoke about the maintenance savings earlier, and so I want to kind of give you a snapshot of why we're seeing such big savings on an EV compared to a diesel. And this comparison kind of highlight that. So on a diesel powertrain, for example, with a Cummins ISD engine, you're going to have 15 quarts of oil, a filter change every 6 months. And on an electric drivetrain, you have an electric motor, and there's no lubricating oil, so no costs related to that. You'll have an Allison transmission on a diesel bus. You have to replace that filter every 50,000 miles and the fluid every 48 months. Because we don't have a transmission, obviously, there's no maintenance required. On a diesel bus, you have a fuel system with a primary filter, water separator, needs to be serviced every 6 months. No fuel filters on an electric drivetrain. Again, no exhaust system on an electric drivetrain like a diesel product. So you don't have DEF filters or DEF tank head unit filters as well. And again, diesel buses have air intake filters. Those require maintenance at 12,000 miles in 12 months. And there are no air filters that require maintenance on electric drivetrain. So in total, you're looking at about an 80% savings on an EV bus as compared to a diesel bus. Next slide. Here's a snapshot of the maintenance on an EV bus. We can put it here on one slide because there's not a lot of it. You have an air compressor, you do have to change out oil. The first one's at 6,000 miles or 6 months, and then 18,000 miles or 12 months after that. The drive motor, simply all you have to do is torque the hardware on the drive motor every 12 months. The thermal management system, you do have to check the coolant level every 12 months and drain and refill it every 5 years or 150,000 miles. And then you have to change the coolant filter once the indicator is on red. Now, electric power steering, you do have to check and maintain the fluid level every 12 months or 20,000 miles. And the battery system, the only maintenance required is to torque that hardware every 12 months or 20,000 miles. So you can see from this, it's a pretty short list. There's not a lot of work required in terms of maintenance on this product. The next slide. So let's review how this vehicle will be serviced if necessary. Because of the special training required to work on high voltage components, we currently require that any work performed on these components is performed by a trained Cummins technician. So those components are the high voltage system, the low voltage system, the batteries, the motor, and the thermal management system. But all the other components not related to these high voltage components can be serviced by a Bluebird dealer or our customers. And again, there's not a lot to be done in that respect. And also, if you do have to have it serviced, you would potentially take it to your local Cummins dealer. And when we sell and deploy buses into a specific area of the country or a state, the local Cummins dealer is trained prior to the bus arriving, so they're ready to go when that bus goes into service. The next slide. So I won't go into great detail on this, but we do offer technical training for technicians. And it's really just a basic overview of our products, where the components are located, what those components do. We talk about some of the maintenance that can be done by the school district. We compare that maintenance to what it would be on a diesel bus. We show you how to shut off the high voltage system. And we also set up kind of an accident scenario, at least verbally, so you can understand what those safety features are in the event that you have to respond to some kind of accident. Next slide. We also offer driver training that can be performed by us or our Bluebird dealer, and a lot of the same things that we discussed with the technicians regarding what the components are, where they're located. But we also talk about instructions on charging, the unique functions of the dash components. We talk about techniques to maximize range, which is a big one because there is regenerative braking on this bus, and we want to explain how to use that properly to get more range out of your product. And also we talk about the safety features and how to properly shut down the high voltage system if there is an emergency. And next slide. And we also offer first responder training. This has been pretty popular. Obviously, when buses are deployed in a certain area, the first responders want to know how to respond when they're coming into an accident situation with these buses. So we offer that as well, and we can do that either in person, or we've done some of them virtually as well, and it's worked out real well. Next slide. Yeah, I think that does conclude my portion of the presentation. Thanks, everyone. I'd like to now turn it over to Jason Gillis from Everman ISD. He's going to tell you a little bit more about the products he's running today. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Albert. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak on behalf of our school district at Everman ISD. Just so happens that the first two letters in Everman are EV. I still think that is a sign. Just real quick, thank you also to Robert Holt and John Rubenkenning. They were essential in helping me find the right bus for our needs and helping us with getting those buses actually here faster than what we were expecting. Overall, we have had awesome, just a really good experience with the bus. The drivers like the bus. The bus runs extremely quiet. If you've ever heard a Tesla car driving down the road, that's about as loud as the bus is. It's surprisingly quiet. We did get the 78 passenger All-American bus, so it's a rear motor, flat nose bus, type D bus, and we actually seated it for 72 passengers because that's what the majority of our fleet is 72 passengers, and just trying to be consistent with availabilities on all buses, and also in case somebody wants to come look at the bus, I will take you for a drive myself. We wanted more legroom, especially for adults. This way, you know, it's the old standard 71, 72 passenger bus, but there's more room. It is comfortable. It's a roof mounted air conditioner. So we haven't gotten to play too much with the air conditioner because we got the buses in late October. And so just about the time we were getting them, might have used the air conditioner a couple of times. But then we started using the heaters. The range on the buses without any air conditioning or heating is about 100 miles. It really is, according to the range. It's like any normal, newer vehicle out on the road right now. It tells you about how many miles you go until you're empty. And on these buses, it does have that range to where without the air conditioner or heater, it's about 100 miles. It's according to the driver, according to the route. But when we use the air conditioner, it did drop it maybe about 5 to 7 miles. The heaters, we're turning on the buses right now, and it's pretty cold. And the buses are turning on with about an 80 to 85 mile range. Again, according to the driver, according to the hills that we're using them on, we are not using them on our longest routes. We're not using them on our shortest routes. Our routes average about 25 to 35 miles per day. And so right now, until we've got a platform being built around our chargers, right now, myself and our manager are the only people that are touching the chargers. I'm an ex-science teacher, so everything, any kind of research, anything that I can use to help us predict to make it safer and more efficient, we do that. So I unplug the chargers in the morning. He plugs them in at night. We did have some issues with the chargers, not so much with the buses. We haven't really had any kind of issues with the buses that wasn't rectified quickly. On our chargers, we found that charging them from almost empty to a full load at night might have been a little bit too much for the chargers. So out of trial and error, we thought, well, let's just try charging them in the morning and at night. That way we kind of keep them topped off. And I think what was happening was it might have been overwork on our chargers a little bit, and it was sending a signal to the charger that said, shut it down. And so we would come in the morning and the bus would have enough for the route, but it wouldn't have had enough for the second route. And by then the chargers were up and running. Our chargers were not actually on the list that Albert showed just a second ago. Our chargers are made by BTC Power. It was supplied to us by EV Connect, and we ended up going with a little bit bigger charger. We went with a 70 amp charger as opposed to 60, which is kind of more common. But we didn't want to spend the money on the rapid charging. So with these, they run about 6,000, 6,500, I think is what it was on the total for each charger. And we got one with each bus. And so I recommend if you are going to buy an electric bus, buy two, because you never know when the charger's not going to be working. You can always use either charger, and you plug it in kind of like a CNG or propane, and you walk away from it, come back a few hours later. When they're completely drained, they're taking about 6 to 7 hours to fully charge. So we charge them about 2 to 3 hours in the morning, 2 to 3 hours in the evening. And then once it kind of tops off, the charger quits charging. On these chargers, they have a little bit, from what I understand, the technology that you can, I guess, push through the electricity to make them 100% charged. But the last hour or so is, it's not overcharging them, but it's not really necessary to get it 100% charged when it's only going to make a difference of about 3 or 4 miles. So in the morning, in fact, here in just a minute, I'm about to go unplug the buses that I plugged in this morning to make sure they're ready for the afternoon route. We don't have the drivers doing that at this time. As far as the training for the drivers, training went really well with the drivers. It was, I think we probably put them through about 10, 15 hours of total training for the drivers. Some of them weren't used to driving the flat nose bus, but we put them specifically on routes and went through the drivers just until they felt comfortable. And some of those buses, we wanted to teach them on the regenerative coasting. So when the bus is going through a neighborhood and we drop a student off at the bus, drop a student off at the bus stop, when we're rolling right before we drop the next student off, it's coasting, and the momentum of the bus turns the wheels, which turns the motor, which charges the battery. And you know, again, we haven't used them on field trips because they are a lower range. Theoretically, we could, but at this time, we specifically bought them for routes, and our average route, like I said, is about 25 to 35 miles. As far as the, you know, health-wise for the kids, we had 3 schools that had a bus at each location. I actually used to have 2, but because of COVID, we've combined the routes to where they only have 1 bus there at the location, and we replaced that 1 bus with an EV bus. So at 3 of our campuses, we have completely stopped the emissions of all buses, or there's no emissions at that location as the kids are getting on and getting off the bus. So safety-wise, health-wise, it's the best thing for the kids. With the Volkswagen grant that we used to purchase the bus, this bus and a diesel equivalent would be about $125,000. At the end, with the grant money and everything, it'll be a net cost of about $71,000 a bus. So it is a tremendous cost savings right up front using the grant. And then we're looking at about an 80 to 85% reduction in maintenance cost. I'm not having to pay a mechanic to go out there and work on it because there's just not work to be done, not as much. And about a 90% cost savings in fuel. So we're running the electric bill. I haven't looked at it personally, but according to my math, when I'm looking at the chargers, our bill is going to go up about $30 to $38 a month for fuel per bus. So as compared that to diesel, and for those districts that are using gasoline, it's going to be a huge cost savings, huge health savings. All in all, there's no reason not to do it. I know that the Volkswagen grant only is focused on larger DFW, Houston, the big metropolitan areas in Texas, and unfortunately, that might be where the other grant processes step in and help people get the buses, because every school district could have one of these electric buses. And right now, I'm looking really good to my superintendent school board. So I think that's all I was having to say. I do appreciate any kind of input. I will make sure and put my name, my email address in the chat box if anybody's got any questions. They can call me, they can text me now, or we can ask here in just a little bit, I think, when we get to questions.
Thanks, Jason. Really appreciate you sharing that with the group today.
Awesome, thank you.
Justine, do we have any questions?
Not so far, but if you guys want to just send a chat, you could send it to me, the host, or you could just send it to everyone and we will answer your questions.
Okay. Or just unmute and ask us. That'll work too, Lon.
Yeah, they could do that too.
So. Quiet group.
I hope I didn't put anybody to sleep.
I probably did that at the beginning.
Okay, I'll speak up. Hey, Robert.
Hey, good afternoon, sir.
How you doing?
I am well. You?
Yeah, good. So since we have all the experts on the line, I'd like to ask a question, and it might not be the proper timing for this, but we all know, and it's all been said, that technology is just improving as fast as we've ever seen it on batteries and those types of components. And in fact, I think Volkswagen's backing one of the fastest growing technology, battery technology groups out there right now. So we do anticipate some really cool battery improvements and performance level batteries within the next 5 years, let's say. I really see this developing quicker than later. My question to the experts today is, are these buses built in such a way that if that battery technology, if that price point becomes reasonable enough to jump out there and upgrade your batteries before the life of the batteries that you have on the bus now? So if you've got 100 and whatever it was, 175 kilowatt battery on there now, and then you can get your hands, you find a 350 kilowatt battery at a garage sale for $100. Can that bus be upgraded with the current configuration that it has? Or is there a massive wiring and configuration upgrade that will have to incur, which will be a greater cost than maybe the cost of the batteries? Is that making sense?
It does. A good question, Terry. I'll let Henton probably address it. He'll do it a little bit more eloquently than I will, but yeah, it wouldn't be possible for several factors, but Henton, I'll let you take that one.
So putting batteries in an electric vehicle is not quite as simple as putting batteries into your flashlight when they went dead. The batteries on EVs, and it's not just our bus, it's EVs in general. There's a lot of communication that goes on with the batteries. There's different types of charging, the rates, the type of current that those batteries like. There's also the issue of cooling and heating those batteries. So you have to have a thermal management system that's compatible with the new batteries. In fact, today there's some batteries that are liquid cooled, and there are others that are air cooled and don't need any type of liquid going through them. They have resistant heaters built into the batteries. So it's not just a matter of unbolting a battery from what's on the vehicle and then bolting another battery up to it. That battery has to be able to communicate with what we call the VCU, or it's the vehicle control unit. It's like an ECU on an engine. It's the computer that brings all the communications together so the whole vehicle operates. So not only do we have to have special communications with the chargers, with the cooling system, you also have to have it with the braking system so that your regeneration is right. You don't want to over regenerate. And also when you push on the accelerator, there's communications with that so that when you push on the accelerator just a little bit, thinking you're only going to go 10 miles an hour, the system doesn't communicate to the batteries and it sends full voltage to the motor, and you've accelerated from 0 to 60 in about 15 seconds. So that's a long way of saying that no, it's not just as simple as going to your garage sale and finding a new set of batteries. Even the OEMs are having to work really hard to make sure that their systems that they have is compatible with the new batteries coming up. So yes, it's possible. I'd say it's possible, but it's not going to be that simple of a task of just swapping out batteries from one manufacturer to another.
Hey, Hanson, this is Robert. Mine needed. Can I ask that maybe another way? What is Cummins doing? What's Cummins' plan working to increase that, that would fit into your chassis? What are they doing from a technology standpoint that's already in this vehicle, and what's the future plans of that?
So Cummins is already looking at some other manufacturers, not only others, but also the ones that we're already using to see that what can we do in the space that we have in order to increase that amount of power that's in those batteries. It's a bit of a long process in order to make that happen, because there's a lot of validation, there's a lot of testing that has to go on, just for some of those reasons that we had already discussed about not just fitting in the space, but also the communications and the wiring up in order to make it happen. But yeah, all that work has already been happening. It's been happening for months, but it just takes a little while to get that technology into a new bus, and especially carrying the cargo that we carry. We can't just haphazardly put a set of high voltage batteries up under the seats of 70 students. We have to ensure that those batteries are going to be safe while they're going down the road. And also in the unfortunate incident that there is an accident, that those batteries are not going to open themselves up, or there's going to be a deadly short.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'd also, if I can add to Terry, your question on technology, and I know I don't work for Rush, I don't work for Bluebird, I just come from personal experience. When we ordered those buses in February, on my quote, it shows the bus is getting 2,160 foot-pounds of torque, or pound-feet of torque. And when we did get the buses, of course, I drove them, and I mean, I was the first one to drive it. I'm going to be the first. If they're coming to my school, I'm getting them. And I was amazed at how fast it accelerated. In fact, that was part of what went along with the training for the drivers, is that, on diesels, a lot of veteran drivers just drive it floored, and on this, you cannot do that. And so we had to drive with those drivers. And when our initial meeting with Robert and Albert and Mr. Harrison Hinton, going through our training on what to do, I said, man, these buses put out like 2,100 foot-pounds of torque. He said, no, it's actually now 2,400. So by the time we ordered them to the time we got them in an 8-month span, they had increased the torque on that motor by 340 pound-feet of torque. And so, and they didn't even tell us, they didn't even charge us anything extra. And so the amount of technology that's being put out just in the time when that bus is sitting on the assembly line, it's being pushed in. They didn't talk to me about the regenerative coasting beforehand because it wasn't there. It was while they were producing the bus. And that's another process that had to go in with the communication with the drivers to teach them, the proper way on how to handle it. The speed on these buses, I tested it myself. On a flat surface from 0 to 50 was in a diesel bus is about 26 to 28 seconds. It's according to the bus. Most of ours have the 6.7 Cummins with Allison transmission. So that's about 25 to 30 seconds. On the electric buses, it was about 16 to 18 seconds. It was literally half. From 30 to 50 was about 10 to 12 seconds. So it accelerates like a car. And that was one of my questions, why not pull some of that torque off and do it to extend the range? And when you look back and you see that, especially in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, in Metroplexes, the #1 accident caused by a bus is a bus pulling out in front of another vehicle. And we've got a large vehicle that can accelerate, not the same as a car, but similar to a large pickup truck. And it's our drivers, it's a heavier bus. And when you look at the cost of not having to replace seats and seat damage, because the driver can hear the kid in the very back seat who's going, oh, he's about to do something. On a regular front engine bus or rear engine bus, you just don't hear the conversations that's going along. So when we look at the cost savings just in, we're not having to repair the stuff that most diesel buses have to go through. The bus is going to be on the road a lot longer, which means we're going to save more money, which means it's going to be healthier. So it's a really good option. Anyway, I just had to put that in there about the technology.
Yeah, and I've gotten to drive the Bluebird Type C when John had it out here, and I loved it. Matter of fact, fell in love with it, and that's why I'm doing as much research as I possibly can.
Well, when you want to come over here to Everman, I'll take you for a drive.
Yep.
Where are you located right now?
Rockwall.
Okay, come on up. Pick me up some donuts and Round Rock on the way.
I know a good buffet over there. We could go eat at.
Say again?
I said, I know a good buffet spot we can go eat at over there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
Okay, any other questions, comments?
Nothing in the chat. If anybody wants to speak up, you can, or we can adjourn.
All right. Well, Terry, appreciate that. Anybody else, last chance here. So if nothing else, thank you guys all for joining. Appreciate it and appreciate your time today. And you guys have a good rest of your week. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, everyone.